Today, we're diving into a story that was born from drought and, well, pure desperation. It's a really powerful look at how fear can twist a savior into a monster, and how revenge, once it's planted, can poison absolutely everything. This is the tale of Kala Jadoo, or black magic. So our story starts in a village called Ketpur, and for 3 long months, the sky just refused to rain. The ground itself was cracked wide open, so dry that even weeds didn't dare to grow. And in that silence, in that heat, something else started to take root in the hearts of the villagers: superstition. You know, every village has people they look up to, right? In Ketpur, that person was the healer. But when you're in a pressure cooker of fear and everything is scarce, those roles can become, well, pretty fragile. In that respect, it started to curdle into something much, much darker. And this was Savitri. She was the village's midwife, their healer. Her herbal remedies had saved countless lives. But then, in one single night, during a really difficult birth, her entire reputation was flipped upside down. When Rupa, the headman's daughter-in-law, died while her child lived, the title of healer was just ripped away, and it was violently replaced with witch. "We trusted you, and you killed my daughter-in-law." That was the scream from the village headman. And it's just a chilling reminder of how mob mentality works, isn't it? When we're faced with this unbelievable grief, the human mind, it just scrambles for a simple cause, for a single person to blame. And just like that, years of trust were completely erased. Savitri pleaded with them, trying to make them see reason, but her voice was just lost in the mob's growing anger. She tried to remind them of their own children, kids who were healthy and alive because of her. But it was like her words just bounced right off them. They weren't listening to reason anymore. They were listening to their fear. And this is the moment the entire story just takes a nosedive. Because when a group of people stops listening, justice is almost always the first thing to go. And in Ketpur, the truth, well, it was about to be set on fire. As the mob closed in on her, Savitri gave them one last chilling warning. She said, "Remember, when truth is burned, the ashes always say something." It was basically a prophecy. She knew exactly what they were about to do, and she was promising them that the end of her story would not be the end of theirs. They completely ignored her words. They lit their torches, and her small hut, this place filled with a lifetime of knowledge, of remedies, it was just engulfed in flames. Savitri, the very woman who had brought so much life into their village, was cast out into the total darkness of the forest. So, driven out into the woods, Savitri's grief and her pain, they started to harden into something else entirely. The healer was gone, and in her place stood an agent of pure vengeance, ready to pour all of that bitterness into a dark, powerful ritual. Okay, so this is how the ritual actually worked. Beneath the ruins of an old temple, a place she probably once went to for peace, Savitri started digging. She made a little clay doll, an effigy, and she wrapped it in a piece of cloth from the headman's family. This is a classic element of what's called sympathetic magic. You have to create a physical link to bind your target to the curse. And as she buried that doll, she whispered her curse. She wasn't praying, she was condemning. She promised that just as they had turned her life to ash, their own lives, their crops, their home, everything would rot from the inside out. And the curse, it took hold almost immediately. Lata, the headman's wife, began to just wither. It started small, with simple fatigue. Then her hair started falling out in clumps. Soon after, these strange, cold blue marks started appearing on her skin, and her nights were filled with these just horrifying, inhuman screams. The headman, watching his wife literally decay before his eyes, his home filling up with this awful smell, he knew this was no ordinary sickness. He was desperate. So he ran to the village pundit, the priest, hoping, praying he could find an answer before it was too late. The pundit's diagnosis was absolutely terrifying. He said this wasn't just any curse. This was Kala Jadoo. And specifically, he called it a Ruh Ga Bandhan, a soul bond. Now, this is a really important distinction. See, Savitri hadn't just cast a spell. She had woven a piece of her own soul into that clay doll, creating a direct parasitic link that would literally feed on her victim's life force. The warning was crystal clear, and the clock was ticking. They had to find that buried effigy and destroy it before the next full moon. If they failed, the curse would become permanent. And not just Letta, but the headman's entire family would be consumed. So the pundit leads the headman and a couple of other villagers to the old temple. The pundit claimed he could hear the earth itself screaming. They start digging like madmen, the air is thick with tension, until a shovel hits something solid. And there it was, a small clay figure, wrapped in lots of scarf, with strands of her hair stuck to its head, and a single black thread tied tight around its neck. And written in charcoal right across the effigy's chest was a simple, chilling phrase that just revealed the sheer depth of her hatred. Your happiness, my thirst. This wasn't just about causing them pain. It was about drawing energy, drawing sustenance from their suffering. Every moment of peace they had would now feed her bottomless need for revenge. As the headman reaches for the doll, planning to smash it to pieces, the curse fights back. The torches just flicker and die, plunging them into total darkness. An unearthly voice echoes from inside the temple, and the pundit screams at the headman to run, warning him that by touching the effigy, he had invited the curse directly into his own blood. But the headman, just blinded by rage and this desperate need to save his family, he didn't listen. In his attempt to break the curse, he was about to seal his family's fate and make sure that Savitri's revenge was anything but finished. The next morning, a heavy silence had fallen over Ketpur. Lotta was found dead, the blue marks on her body now a deep, poisonous color. And lying right there on the bed next to her was the clay effigy. But it had changed. Its neck was gone, and in its place was a dark, scorched mark. The headman? He was found in a corner, completely broken, just clutching pieces of clay and muttering words no one could understand. The curse was fulfilled, but the story? Oh, the story didn't end there. The villagers say that the soul that was bound to that magic, the piece of Savitri that was fueled by pure vengeance, was never laid to rest. They say it's still out there, in the forest, a lingering spirit, forever seeking to complete its unfinished revenge. And so, at the end of all this, we're left with the same question Savitri herself might have asked. In a village consumed by fear, in a spirit consumed by vengeance, who is truly alive and who is already dead?